This is Geek News Central. My name is Todd Cochran, coming to you from the new media production studio in Coldwater, Michigan. Uber wants a vaccine for their drivers early. Apple and Google are clamping down on location brokers. The FCC gets tough on China. And we're going to talk about the Apple Airpod Max. I want to welcome you to episode 1493 of the Geek News Central podcast for Thursday, December 10th. This show is sponsored in part by GoDaddy.com and listeners just like you. Great deals from GoDaddy can be found at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. You can support this show today at geeknewscentral.com/insider. I want to give a warm welcome to all the new listeners of the show. Thank you for being here. Thanks for checking the podcast out for the very first time. And of course, if you are checking the show out for the very first time, we want to make sure that you get over to geeknewscentral.com, get subscribed to the show right there on the sidebar. There's half a dozen or so selections for you, but Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts are the primary two to pay attention to. Of course, there's other options there for you. Of course, get subscribed to the newsletter. The newsletter is linked a little bit lower on the page. That way you'll stay connected with the podcast at all times, and you'll get the show delivered immediately upon its delivery. Now, you can join our chat room. We have a chat room at geeknews.chat. That's a Mastodon chat server, or on our Discord channel, or you can be part of our cool kid family and be on the Slack surface. So definitely want to thank all of you for checking the show out for the very first time. And double checking the streaming air. Nope, we're good. We're online. That's good. And of course, if you're watching on the live stream, make sure you say hello. And I actually got a message immediately from one of the folks watching. I'll talk about it here in a second. But hey, you can always contact me. Oops. I got the wrong thing selected. Oh, what's going on? I knew I did this earlier today. And why is DSK1? What is that selected to? Well, I guess I won't figure it out. geeknews@gmail.com is the email address. geeknews@gmail.com is email address. Or you can contact me via Twitter @geeknews. And of course, you can follow me here on Facebook as well. The best part about this show really is all the partner shows. Then they're all linked at geeknewscentral.com. You can check all those out. And of course, this show is sponsored by the longest running continuous sponsor of a podcast, and that's our good friends over at GoDaddy.com. And you can save a lot of money by going to geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. And when you're over there, just definitely use one of my promo codes. Save 30% off new product purchases, $4.99 on a new or transferred domain for new customers, $1 a month economy hosting. Again, manage WordPress hosting for the first year. Each of those plans also include a free domain name. So definitely check all that out. We definitely appreciate it when you do. And I want to thank GoDaddy for being a longtime sponsor here at Geek News Central. So I've completely jacked up my system tonight. Where did that go? What did I do? I'm trying to figure out what okay, so let me go over here. So every once in a while, I'll accidentally click something, and I think if I click on this and make sure that is graphics 1, yes, I got that back. But it's not up completely. There it is, but it's not doing it the way it's supposed to. It's all right. I'll take care of it to the end of the show tonight. But hey, thanks for being here. You're thinking, what are you talking about? For those of you watching a live stream, some of the overlays got switched out, and my own fault. But Greg says, hey, aloha, Todd. Saw that bother you. NMCI is blocking your stream on Facebook. Rita says, hi, Todd. And I want to thank them for checking in. But again, and I'm all scrambled, I've completely blew the sponsor spot tonight. Definitely want you to get over to geekandcentral.com/GoDaddy. Check out all the great deals. There's something there for everyone. Save money on GoDaddy promo codes. You using those codes will support my show, and we definitely appreciate it that you basically have picked up a GoDaddy product. So now that I completely blew that tonight, oh my God. So you know how easy it is to get a podcast host flustered is when you go to press a button and the button doesn't work and it's not where it's not displaying what it's supposed to be. But that I know earlier that I had pushed a button on here, and I just knew I should have checked it out and made sure everything was right. So that's what I get for being an idiot. But anyway, I'm sorry you're not able to watch the stream. Greg and everyone else that's watching, please say hello. Okay, so now that I've completely blown the intro to the podcast, you guys like the new screen today? For those of you watching live, the bottom of the screen normally was blue, but it's got the Hawaii theme on it. So I've got the dinosaur halfway in the desert on Mars and half the way on the island of Oahu. But he is wearing the Santa Claus little hat, or the elf hat. So we're trying to do something here a little bit to liven things up. So anyway, about 3 o'clock in the morning, I will be up tomorrow morning and leaving the house with my mom about 4. We're headed to Detroit. We're going to fly down to Florida, flying on Spirit. This is my first time ever flying on Spirit, so we'll see how that goes. Yes, I did pay for my carry-on, and I did pay for my seat, so at least I know I'm good there. And we'll be down there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, when we'll fly back here on Monday. There'll be no show on Monday because of the time I get back on Monday. And remarkable price for airline tickets. It just was, I think I talked about on the last show. But one thing I'm trying to decide to do, and I'm having a hard time really coming to a decision, is what to do about CES coverage this year. It's all virtual. I'm just not convinced based on everything, because if I'm here, I'm going to be being pulled 5 ways to Sunday, because I'm going to have really regular JLB stuff, and then a whole bunch of stuff going on there, and then trying to do CES coverage in between. I just don't know how it's gonna pan out. So maybe what I'll do is have some kind of CES coverage shows during CES this year versus having, some live event where I just talk about stuff and speculate. I don't know how entertaining that is, or maybe I'll do a couple of hours here and there. It's really at this point, my heart is not into it, and part of it is because it's not going to be the same. You're not going to have guests. We're not going to have, rotation of host, and, Don's in Phoenix. The F5 Live guys are down in Florida. And it's really going to be discombobulated. So I don't know what I'm going to do for CES this year. I'm going to think through it. If you've got any ideas, I'd love to talk to you. Hey, one thing I saw, I was actually recording a new media show yesterday, and they were getting ready. SpaceX was getting ready to do their test launch, and I missed it because I got done with this new media show. I had a bunch of stuff going on, and they did do the test. The test, I guess, went pretty good until about the last 10 seconds. And it landed all right. It landed very hard. We'll call it a hard landing. And the hard landing caused quite the explosion. So their specimen 8 blew up. And so Elon Musk is all excited. We collected all the telemetry we needed. There was something really weird that happened during the during the entire launch. I was watching. They had this camera inside the rocket, and about 4 minutes or so into flight, all of a sudden you see this moving of the engines, and all of a sudden one of the engines kicked off. It almost like it just like it detached, although it didn't detach, and it caused a little bit of a fire inside the dome, inside the rocket. And I thought, was that normal? Was that supposed to happen? And then a little bit later, it kind of rotated again, and the two of the three engines went off this, kind of like it went off to the side. And I don't know if this is their way of disengaging the engine and getting it away. I know they all work independently, but the third rocket continued to run until it shut down. And then this thing tipped over, and then it basically flew itself home. It was pretty cool. So it's on YouTube. So you should go watch it. You should go to watch the SpaceX test launch, and just watch the ascent. You know, it's a 2-hour YouTube video, but the last 9 minutes is where it's all at. So go over to YouTube and watch it, and I think you will be dutifully impressed. So tonight I want to start with Dan. I found your email. It wasn't because it was. I'm reading a text here on the in the show notes. Dan? It was in my unread stuff. I hadn't got to it yet, so I've got your email for tonight. So I want to talk a little bit about the Chinese. It's been all over the news. It's been all online. Talking about Chinese spies. Talking about Chinese, stealing stuff. There's a news information report today that. It looks like the Chinese have come up with a stealth bomber that looks kind of like one of our bombers. And here's the simple fact. And I'm just, this is what we have to watch. The Chinese are in this for the long haul to own us, to control us, to be able to control the world. During this whole COVID thing, they've been going around and they've been making portage deals, oil deals, road deals, construction deals all over the world. They have not stopped trying to influence countries all over the world and making really aggressive movements to apply their influence. We've talked about it on the show before. We've heard now about a House representative that had potentially had an affair, it was not an affair, he wasn't married, but had a relationship with a Chinese national that ended up being a spy. There's all kinds of stuff that's happened with the Chinese trying to influence the government. They're in universities. They're here as students. And I'm not saying all students that are here from China are spying on the United States, but what we need to really be aware of is what their purpose and what they're doing here, working in labs and so forth. It's not all good. It's not. And it's real. And I think a lot of people discount it, on what they're doing. So we've got a couple of things in the show tonight to talk about the crackdown that the government is doing against Chinese firms and so forth. But I don't think, here's what I think. I think what's going to happen. The current administration, whether you like them or not, in my opinion, has had a pretty effective Chinese policy with the tariffs and everything else that they've done. They've really made an impact. My conspiracy theory is, and I don't know if I've said this in the show before, but again, it's my personal conspiracy theory, is that COVID, or Rona, or whatever we want to call it, was done on purpose by them. That's my conspiracy, or my belief. And I believe a lot of it had to do with their wanting, and maybe okay, let's say it wasn't done on purpose, but let's say it got out of control. And they then used this time as an advantage to them to apply influence. Well, let's say that they did do it on purpose, and they have no regard for human life. The government doesn't. I'm not saying the Chinese people. The government doesn't have no regard for human life. People go missing there all the time, never to be seen again. And it's kind of reminiscent of the days of Russia. Beautiful women, seducing men. It's, it is really comes out of that same playbook. So we will see what develops with the next administration and how their approach to China is as compared to the current administration. I'm thinking that there's going to be close scrutiny upon rolling back of tariffs and restrictions, and especially when it comes to Huawei Huawei, and so we'll see what happens next. But there is, in my opinion, or at least from my perspective here, some concerns. Now, that leads right into the first story tonight of the show. And I see what's happening here. To me, it looks like it's being very political at this point. The FCC is getting tough on China amid security concerns, and the FCC rolled some rules out today. And this is going to make it very difficult for the next administration to roll some of this stuff back, because then there's going to be questions of why. Why are you rolling it back? Are you sure that this ruling wasn't incorrect? So the agency's told all carriers that get U.S. government subsidies and use Chinese telecom equipment, they must replace their gear. So on Thursday, they ordered broadband and wireless companies in the States to remove all equipment from Chinese manufacturers such as Huawei and ZTE that could pose national security risk. It also affirmed the agency's designation of Huawei as a national security threat. And the agency began a process to revoke China's telecom authorization to operate in the United States. The moves are all part of a greater effort by the United States government to crack down on China's role in U.S. telecommunications amid worry that equipment and services operated by Chinese companies with close ties to Chinese governments could be used for espionage against Americans. Now, espionage meaning they're not going to spy on you or me, but they're going to spy on our companies. And they're going to go after our tech and our IT. They love stealing technology. And then, because they're not super innovative themselves, they get a lot of their stuff from stealing it. It's, we've seen it at CES time and time and time again. Stuff that they were walking around in groups taking pictures of equipment, and then several months later, you see them on Chinese marketplaces being sold as a knockoff. So what is important here, though, because the FCC is bipartisan. There are Republicans and there are Democrats on that panel. So check this out. The FCC voted 5-0, not 3-2, 5-0, to establish a list of equipment that should be removed from U.S. networks that receive government subsidies. It also set up a program to reimburse carriers for replacing gear that's suspected of being a security threat. The program will begin once Congress allocates the $1.6 billion promised in legislation to become law this past March. In a separate vote, the agency also decided to revoke China Telecom's authorization to operate in the U.S., citing concerns that Chinese-owned telecommunication operators be forced to comply with requests for information made by the government. China Telecom is the largest Chinese telecommunication company and has been authorized to provide service to the United States for nearly 20 years. The FCC also affirmed, again, its designation of Huawei as a national security threat. We know this comes as the administration wrangles with China over its trade policies and the handling of the coronavirus. The national security agencies have warned of the dangers of using gear from China. In June, we know that the FCC classified Huawei and ZTE as national security threats. The record on this is clear. FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr, a Republican, said in a statement, the Chinese government intends to surveil persons within our border for government security, for spying advantage, as well as for intellectual property and an industry or business edge. The FCC estimates that several dozen rural carriers that have accepted government subsidies to build their networks use equipment from Huawei or ZTE. They say it'll cost each firm from $40 million to $45 million to replace the gear, putting the total estimate around $1.8 billion. Now, legislation has already been signed to stop carriers from using government funds to buy network equipment from Huawei and ZTE. So I think it's important here that the U.S. and U.K. and Australia have all banned Huawei from providing 5G technologies for their respective wireless networks. The FCC is also its eyes on shutting out Chinese telecommunication providers from operating in the U.S. amid similar security concerns. So this is a major thing. Yeah, Ted. And this is why, Ted, I'll never go to China or through Hong Kong or any place going anywhere, because I'm sure I'm on their list. Although they haven't sent a pretty woman over to see me yet. So, anyway, based on my basic knowledge of stuff I used to do in the past, isn't the Russians that we're worried about. In a majority sense, it's the Chinese. It really, truly is. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, folks, on some of the stuff that they're doing. So as you're working in whatever respective job you're doing, you think about what would happen if information was stolen from your business and taken back to China. For some of you, it may not be a big deal, but for some of you, it's probably a really big deal. I know I have a lot of government people that listen to this show, and they are at best restricted from being able to really have an opinion on this because they can't. But privately, based upon who I know, and I know what they know, they're probably like screaming, "You tell them, Todd." So please, please, please just understand that once the administration changes, of course, we'll see how that turns out. I think that it's going to be telling whether or not these restrictions are relaxed or revoked or taken away, or if the tariffs are removed. I think most Americans understand how bad we've been screwed here. And we'll see if the next administration takes a different stance on China. So I'm getting a private message from Ted. Thanks for the note, Ted. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I got some emergency alerts here too, Ted. We've been getting that here in Michigan already. Our governor's been using emergency alerts on the COVID thing. So we've been getting them. So anyway, that's, you guys have heard me talk about, if those who've been with the show for a while have heard me talk about this quite a bit already. And you know kind of my stance on this. I think what the FCC has done here is dead on accurate. I really truly do. I think they've hit it all the ballpark. So time will tell where this leads with the next administration. Okay, so let's talk about Apple and Google, and this is probably just as big. We've heard lots of complaints by the ACLU and other groups how Apple and Google, through third parties, have been able to use location tracking data. Well, Apple and Google clamped down on what's called X-Mode. X-Mode is a company. They're a location tracking broker, and they have been selling location data to the federal government. So the Wall Street Journal reported the company supplied data to U.S. government contractors working on national security and pandemic-related issues. X-Mode has other clients, but its ties to political world have forced Apple and Google into action. Android app developers were given 7 days to remove X-Mode's SDX, or some could apply for extension up to 30 days. Apple, meanwhile, gave its community 2 weeks to make the change. If developers don't comply, they risk having their apps removed from the store. According to the Journal, Apple and Google shared their decision with Ronald Lee Wyden, a U.S. Senator currently investigating how location data is sold to political forces. X-Mode isn't the only company that wants to tame and sell location data. The Virginia-based organization has been highlighted in multiple media reports by both the Journal, Vice, Motherboard, so forth. The later discovered that many seemingly innocent apps are using X-Mode's SDK. Unsurprising, X-Mode isn't happy with the decision. The company believes it's being singled out in a way that could affect other industries. A ban on X-Mode SDK would have broader ecosystem implications, considering X-Mode collects similar mobile app data as most advertising SDKs, and Apple Google is setting up the precedent that they can determine private enterprises' ability to collect and use mobile app data. Well, it's all about who you're selling it to. That is the problem. These phones are providing location. If you have that turned on and someone wants to see what you do every day, they can buy that data. Just remember that. Where you go, your phone tracks you. How does it know that it's going to be 10 minutes to get home? Because it knows what the traffic is going home from all the people that have location data turned on, and it knows where you live, so it's telling you how long it's going to take you to get home. This is a wonderful thing if you're trying to plan something, but at the same time, dun, dun, dun. All right. You all heard about the Apple Airpod Max. My goodness. I was like, how much? $549. And as The Verge says, they need to deliver more than just good sound. Yes, how about scratching my ear? I want the AirPods to itch my ear, give me an ear massage. Heck, why don't it clean my ears while it's at it? Yes, we know Christine Fang left the country. She knew she was probably going to be arrested. Yes, she did. So, according to The Verge, they said, I've been playing with Apple's new $549 AirPods Max over-ear headphones since yesterday, and so far they sound very nice and fit very comfortably. They also, I have to say this, have a distinct smell, like a funky riff on a new car smell. I'm pretty sure that's a byproduct of the memory foam earpads rolling off the manufacturing line and straight into a shipping box, and I'm reliably told it will fade away. I would probably not tell you what a pair of $100 headphones smell like, but at $550, I feel compelled to note that AirPods are a multi-sensory experience out of the box. So, Apple says that this headband that they have distributes the weight of the headphones more evenly across your head. Well, I don't have to worry about that. I've got earbuds in. And by the way, I figured out what my earbuds issue was. It's not the earbuds. I had a cable somewhere scratching, doing an issue. It's still, I haven't isolated it completely, but the earbuds were fine. It was an actual true issue. But anyway, $549? Really? It's crazy. 20 hours of battery life. And it'll run for 90 minutes, just after 5 minutes on the charger. There's no fast charging available, although you use a USB-C. You're not going to find a 3.5 or 2.5 analog audio input. That's not happening. These are noise-canceling headphones. But it's crazy. $550. Now, there's a lot of headphones that are expensive, but is this just going to be an Apple fanboy product where the cool kids have got enough money to be able to buy this? Oh, what's going on? The screen didn't update. I'll wait till it moves. There we go. So that is the question, right? So time will tell on these things, but $550? Come on. In the next news item, this is pretty ballsy. Uber is asking governors to give drivers early access to COVID-19 vaccine. The CEO letters urge states to classify drivers as essential workers. Frankly, I think this is ridiculous. This is selfish, in my opinion. How many Uber drivers have gotten COVID? That's the question. How many of them gotten COVID from doing their job? I don't see that in this article. We know that frontline workers, healthcare workers, nursing home people, they're all first. There was a thing on the New York Times. It's probably the only time I go to the New York Times where they would give you a calculator on where you are in line to get COVID. Now, I think I've talked about it on this show before. And if I haven't, I've got type 2 diabetes. And other than that, I'm older. So you put all that information in, and there's 23 million people ahead of me, rightly so. But if I take out the diabetes selection, and then I go back to like 86 million or something like that. So so there is a calculator on the New York Times website to see where you're in line for vaccine. Now, I think there's going to be plenty of vaccine because there's about 100 million people that are saying, I'm not taking the vaccine. So I think there's going to be plenty of vaccine to go around. I bet you within 1 month, maybe 2 months, let's say by February, they are going to be looking for people. They're going to, it's going to open up because so many people are not going to take the vaccine. You got this big segment of population, and no matter of their other issues that they may or may not have, they're just going to say, no, I'm not taking it. So anyway, that's where it's at. Okay, what do you think about Uber asking for that? You think it's fair? I'd love to hear from you. Hyundai, yes, Hyundai, the motor company, plans to put you in a flying taxi in just 8 years. We saw this at CES earlier this year, their mock-up, but their urban air mobility project are full speed ahead for intra-city flights and even cargo transportation. Now, I always used to laugh in Hawaii. I always wish that I could have gotten a flight from my house over to Kaneohe. Because in certain traffic was an hour and a half to get over there and an hour and a half to get back. I would have took an air taxi. I really would have. So anyway, who knows? I'd like to have one of those locally. It'd be kind of cool. Google and Amazon have been fined 135 million euros over misuse of cookies by French data watchdog. The regulators criticized the firms for not getting consent before placing the trackers. This is all about GDPR. France's this is France's rules. France's data protection regulator, the Commission Nationale d'Information et des Libertés, has fined Google and Amazon a total of 135 million euros, around $163 million between them for violating country's data protection laws. Google was fined a total of 100 million euros, while Amazon was fined 35 million euros. So it was all about cookies. Those little cookies, we all actually know cookies are going away. A lot of the cookie trackers, even here in the United States, are being done away with. So won't have to worry about that too much. NASA and Boeing are set to do over. They got a do-over of their Starliner orbital test from March. If you remember, back in March, they had a successful launch. They made it to orbit, but because of a communication failure, they didn't have enough fuel to get to the International Space Station. So they've apparently fixed their software. It always comes down to the software, right? Quote unquote. Today's SpaceX boom, I think, was more hardware because they didn't have enough pressure in the fuel tank. But anyway, they're gonna get a redo, and that means that they are at least one additional flight away from doing a manned crew event. So they have a do-over, and the flight is slated for sometime in March. At that point, sometime this year, we may have two lift providers that can take astronauts to the International Space Station or wherever else they deem. A little bit of controversy going over at Google. I don't know. This is an interesting story. They fired one of their real top AI researchers, and the CEO promises to investigate the exit of the top AI researcher. He did apologize to other Google employees for how the company handled the firing dismissal of the AI expert Timit Gebru. The memo did not state if him or any Google employees had reached out to the employee or ex-employee. But I guess over in Google, they're pretty outraged right now. And a whole bunch of people have signed equivalent of a petition for demanding information and on why and how. So basically, this person there was pretty well liked. So I don't know what's the story there, but a long story short, people are not happy over at Google on this particular firing. Now, this next company, I was a little bit aware of, but they're doing something cool. Do not pay. Now, they're a consumer advice company that started out helping people easily challenge parking tickets. They've come a long way since they launched. They've expanded to help consumers cancel memberships, claim compensation for missed flights, and even sue companies for small claims. So, in the early days of the pandemic, the startup helped its users file for unemployment, where many state benefit sites crashed. Now, the so-called robot lawyer is a new trick. The startup now lets you request information underneath Freedom of Information Act. So, you guys know I filed some FOIAs, and you have to be really careful about what you request in FOIAs. One of the FOIAs I wrote, if it had been executed, was going to cost like $13,000 to execute. The cost to get the information. And that's the trick that they do. If you don't know how to write a FOIA correctly, there's enough nuances in the law that you may not be able to afford the execution. And even if you do pay for the execution, it could be a long time, a year or two, before you get the data. Now, they're put together a patchwork of questions and questions that they ask you, what you're trying to collect, and they create a FOIA for you. And this is really amazing. They word it so that you can get the waivers for the fees and all that stuff too. It just helps you write a FOIA better. For someone that's not experienced, is looking for information from a school or your local state government, remember, this is the thing most Americans forget. Almost all data, all paper, all emails created within the federal, state, and local governments is public property. and information can be requested via FOIAs if you're researching a specific issue, and you have a right to get access to that. And this is some pretty revealing stuff, as we found in our FOIA requests that we did from when I was investigating what was going on at the school my sister's kids were going to, and the school I went to in high school. And so don't forget, you always have that at your disposal when you're trying to find information out. And sometimes it could be something very simple. You know, what was the particulars about a bus contract? Or, you know, it could be anything. As long as it's state, local, federal, and not private companies, but, you know, government agencies that you pay taxes to. Moving on to a little different subject here. AT&T sells Crunchyroll to Sony for $1.2 billion amid streamlining efforts. Sony will be by far the biggest U.S. player in this rapidly growing market. Those of us who are old enough to clear memories of video stores may remember the time when Japanimation comprised of a single bottom shelf of battered VH cases near the back of the shop. These days, however, anime distribution in the United States is $1 billion business, or more specifically, $1.2 billion, as that was Sony's paying to cash in to acquire Crunchyroll from AT&T. Crunchyroll has more than 90 million users in 200 countries, including more than 3 million subscribers to its streaming service. It also distributes mobile games, manga, merchandise, managed events. Sony will eventually be folding Crunchyroll to an existing Funimation anime distribution business. And anime is big. If you think anime, if you ever get to Japan, look for those big manga comic books. It's crazy with their passion for that. This is surprising, and I'm going to have to check this out because I still have a T-Mobile hotspot. T-Mobile's introducing its first 5G hotspot and a 100 gig standalone plan for $50. This is big. But the pricing is really, really aggressive here. The carrier standalone 5G hotspot is priced to compete starting at $30 for 10 gigs, $40 for 30, and topping out at 100 gigs for $50. In comparison, AT&T standalone hotspot starts at $60 per month for 15 gigs. Verizon's offering at $80 for 15 gigs. So the hotspot is not cheap. It costs $336 to purchase outright. And the carrier is now knocked that down to $168 if you add a new line and spread the payment across 24 months. Well, I don't like contracts. So that's kind of cool. Now, I wonder if you're not on 5G, if you still get 100 gigs. What if it's LTE? That's the question. How many of you geeks out there remember Cydia or know Cydia? Cydia. Well, Cydia has sued Apple, alleging its App Store has a monopoly. And Cydia once offered apps for jailbroken iOS devices, but claims Apple froze out competition. So this lawsuit from the creator of jailbroken iOS App Store, Cydia, claims Apple used anti-competitive tactics that froze Cydia and other would-be rivals when it created its App Store. And so this is interesting. Now, Cydia has been around since 2007, before Apple had established an App Store. And after the launch of the App Store, Cydia became a way of users to install apps, tweaks, and software that had not been approved by Apple. And the lawsuit alleges that the early iPhones were limited in functionality, and they were not able to install third-party software or additional apps. Over the years, Apple made it more difficult, of course, to jailbreak phones. So we'll see where this goes. This is the latest effort. Now, we know that Epic Games has got their own anti-competitive lawsuit going on right now. And of course, we know that a judge granted an injunction to prevent Apple from retaliating against Epic's Unreal Engine, but refused to grant an injunction that would have restored Fortnite in Apple's App Store. So we'll see where this goes. Of course, Spotify, Basecamp, Match Group, the Blix, Deezer have all working together to create what's called a Coalition for App Fairness, and they're not getting very far at this point. So we'll see where this lawsuit goes. Ex-Apple employee says the company ignored China labor laws. Well, this is nothing new. Apparently, it was about temporary workers. China required these companies that were making iPhones and stuff to have less than 10% temporary workers. Well, apparently that's still an issue. And that law was put in place by China in 2010. So lots of temporary workers have gotten abused, are still getting abused. So today is the day for Hyundai to be in the news. So Hyundai is buying Boston Dynamics for almost $1 billion. So congratulations to them. Boston Dynamics goes back 28 years when an engineer named Mark Reibert spun the company off from an MIT project for most of its history. Boston Dynamics did research and robotics work for the U.S. military and DARPA. So now, of course, interesting company led Google to purchase it in 2013 as a plaything for Android founder Andy Ruman. And then SoftBank got into the deal. We don't know how much SoftBank paid for Boston Dynamics, but they've got a huge patent portfolio. So we'll see what's going on here. Hyundai is fitting a home for Boston Dynamics. The company's been investing heavily in robotics technology in the recent years. So bada bing, bada boom. 1.8. Big numbers here. Oh, for almost $1 billion, not 1.8, almost $1 billion. Disney Plus hits 86 million subscribers in a little over a year. That's a pretty impressive number. This has given Disney confidence to pursue more streaming. As a matter of fact, I saw a tweet that announced a new series that's going to come out similar to The Mandalorian around the same time frame. I don't know the name, but I saw something, just a tweet of it just before we started to go live today. So another reason to have Disney Plus. U.S. House passes a bill to tear down a judiciary paywall. Now, some of you are going to be like, please, thank you, about time. This bill would require judiciary to overhaul the Pacer site and make it free by 2025. Pacer, yes. The bill aims to modernize Pacer, the website that provides public access to federal court records. It also aims to eliminate Pacer paywall by 2025. The Pacer system resembled a big advance for additional transparency when it went online in the 1990s, but the system hasn't kept up with the times, or the user interface has changed little since the last days of dial-up. So this is big. So they feel that they could be ready by 2024. Now, to finance the overhaul of Pacer, the law allows the courts to not only continue collecting current Pacer fees, but also to levy additional fees on customers who spend more than $6,000 per quarter. These high-volume customers include data brokers who scrape the Pacer database for background checks and other purposes. So stand by if you're using that or have a company tied to that. There was some Instagram and Facebook problems today. They had a little bit of outage. So about 9:30 a.m. GMT. So a lot of us were still asleep when this happened, but they had a bit of an outage. People couldn't message, some problems. Also, NASA has named the astronauts eligible for the early Artemis moon missions. A group of 18 candidates include veterans and relative newcomers. So 8 of the astronauts are from the 2017 class, including U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander Kayla Barron, Navy SEAL and medical doctor Johnny Kim, and Curiosity Science team member Jessica Watkins. There are also several 2013 veterans, including record setter Christina Koch and Crew Dragon pilot Victor Glover. A few of the candidates are far more experienced, though. Stephanie Wilson landed her astronaut role in 1996, while Joseph Akaba secured his place in 2004. So this is the class that will go back to the moon. Did you get on the Airbnb stock offering? Well, it was a little bit of a different one. Airbnb opened $146 per share on its first day of trading on Thursday, more than doubling the $68 per share price set for its IPO the day before. This is a weird time to go public, but they did. but $146 per share. The company now has a market cap of $86.5 billion, more than double the valuation the company saw in the IPO just a day ago. That puts Airbnb past the market cap of travel giant Booking, which has a valuation of $86 billion, compared to Expedia that has a market cap of $18. It also's market cap exceeds Marriott and Hilton. So this is awesome. They did very, very well. We'll see if it keeps up. Google is going to let you limit YouTube ads for booze and gambling. The new ad setting will be available across the Google platform. Spotify has reset a number of users' passwords after a security bug exposed users' private account information. In a data breach notification filed with the California Attorney General's office, the music streaming giant said the data exposed may have included email addresses, your preferred display name, password, gender, and date of birth only to certain business partners of Spotify. The company did not name the business partners, but added that Spotify did not make this information public accessible. So this vulnerability existed as far back as April 9th. Why don't they have these stuff hashed? Why isn't this stuff encrypted? I don't understand it. So if you got a notice to reset your Spotify account, you'll know why. Oracle's reporting slow revenue growth as licensing and hardware business decline, even though they did beat expectations, but their quarterly guidance did come in above companies' estimates. Now, they still are trying to do the deal for TikTok. TikTok's holding out. TikTok wants to see what's going to happen with the next administration. So we'll see what happens here with TikTok and Oracle. Disney bundle with Disney Plus and ESPN Plus and ad-free Hulu is $18.99. So if you're getting Disney Plus, if you're getting ESPN Plus, and you're getting Hulu, you might get it cheaper by doing this bundle deal. So we'll see what happens there. But that is an offer out there. I don't do ESPN at all, so I won't save no money. Google has rolled back a Buggy update that stopped people from sending text. So if you got an Android device and you're having problems sending text, they reversed whatever they did. And people were facing SMS issues where it was just spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning and would not deliver. A new entry-level Amazon Kindle could soon arrive with a much-needed display upgrade. It's rumored that to have a 300 ppi screen, just like the Kindle Paperwhite and Kindle Oasis. So again, an entry-level Kindle could soon arrive. And I just use my iPad. That's what I use for Kindle. And it could be in the $90 range or something like that. So anyway, we'll see. So we talked about those cards that were being stolen, right? Those GPUs. But how much are scalpers making selling hard-to-get PC hardware and console? So these numbers come courtesy of dev blogger Michael Dressel. He's an Oracle data engineer, and it plays his data skeleton in his off hours of scalping market for PC hardware and consoles. His analysis shows that scalpers have sold at least $82 million in Ryzen 5000 CPUs, RTX 30 series cards, RX 6000 GPUs, and Xbox Series X and PS5 consoles. For example, some 322 Ryzen 9 5950X CPUs are sold at a median price of $1,275. Those impossible to get RTX 38 cards with list price of $699, well, 7,222 of them sold at a median price of $1,315. So he hates scalpers, and he likes exposing them. And but anyway, he did find out what they're not doing so well on certain types of CPUs like the Ryzen 7 5800, which is, again, a CPU chip. They're not getting as much on those. They're not making as much money. But anyway, it's a good article. And if you're looking for some of that higher end stuff, this is the place to go look. Okay, UK space launch startup Orbex has raised $42 million for its reusable rockets. So good for them. I'll put a link up in the show notes. We've been Kirk's been finding stuff on Yahoo Finance lately, of all places. So I've got 3 or 4 today from Yahoo Finance. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on it. Also, a cheaper Samsung foldable phone could be in the works. That's the rumor. And maybe a sub $1,000. So time will tell. All right, today, please don't leave. I've got a bunch of email. I found the emails, as I said earlier in the show. So let's back up here and get Dan's email. He said, "Hey, Todd, here is that TV service you asked me to send to again because you had missed earlier emails I sent. Service is called Locust TV. Locust.org, LOCAST.org. Depending you local if the service is available. It is not available in my area, but I have logged into the service before using a VPN. It works great. This will give you all the locals and then some. Seen some areas that has up to 70 channels. It's a free service, but ask for a $5 donation to help out. On top of that, there's also Philo TV, FHILO TV service that offers most of the regular cable channels, more than 60 channels, sports channels. Who needs that crap? But this service is only $20. I hope you're in an area close enough to Detroit to get Locust TV to save the monthly fee for your YouTube." So thanks for sending that over, and I will definitely check that out. So also, what I didn't do on the last show is I didn't compile the list of yes and no's on the vaccine. Now, just for study standpoint, only got 11 emails. So from 11 email standpoint, the yes and no's break down 7 yes, 4 no. 7 yes, 4 no from people that listened to the show that said that whether or not they were going to get the vaccine. So 7 yes and 4 no. So that's, what is that in a plus 70 some percent, 72, 73, 74% said yes. Also got an email from Henry. He says, "Hey, Todd, it's been a while since I've written. This is why I think bars and restaurants and churches are closed. In these places, you're stationary for a long time and talking and or singing more. This could spread the virus to more people. You're also not wearing a mask while eating and drinking, adding to the virus spread. In Costco, for example, they limit how many people that can come in. They require masks. You're moving most of the time, except at checkout, where you're spaced 6 feet apart. Face masks and plexiglass are there to protect employees. Gyms are open, not here in Michigan. There, too, mask, hand wash, and sanitizing equipment before and after each use. They will limit how many can be there. They social fitness, only using every third treadmill or elliptical machines." You're in Livonia. I don't think the gyms are open here. Maybe I'm wrong. I still don't believe it. As long as you're 6 feet away from someone, and most restaurants it's 9 or 10. I was down in Indiana, and the separation is like 10 feet. So I still don't believe that indoor dining in restaurants is a risk. That's my personal opinion. I really don't. I'm headed to Florida. Florida's open, so I'm going out to eat. At least I think I am. All right, that's going to wrap us up. geeknews@gmail.com, geeknews@gmail.com, as I seem to have destroyed the beginning of the show. Twitter's @geeknews. Please support our sponsor, GoDaddy. And also, if you're considering becoming an insider, this is a great time to become an insider. Got the credit card bill for the several incidents that have happened here. Paid it. Wasn't in the budget, but don't want to pay interest. So everyone, thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the family. Now, again, because I am going to Florida and I'm not getting back until late Monday, there'll be no show on Monday. So I'll be back a week from today for Geek News Central. So please stay subscribed and definitely check out the blog at geeknewscentral.com. The writers are doing a lot of stuff. A little heartburn going on. And I definitely appreciate your ongoing support of the show. It's greatly appreciated. And we'll see you next time here on the Geek News Central podcast. Now, everything works. And if I click this, those of you watching, the graphic will pop up. We'll see. Yeah, it did. All right. Everyone take care. See you next time. Bye-bye.